Ambassadors from across 14 African nations are here at the White House today for a special briefing with White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. The ambassador from Angola, from Benin, Ethiopia, Gabon, Gambia, Djibouti, Cote d'Ivoire, Tanzania, Ghana, and Uganda. They are all here present today, as well as ambassador from Haiti and other CARICOM countries, Caribbean nations and other nations. They are all present here today. They were invited for a special briefing with the White House Press Secretary. As many of our audience in the diaspora, the African diaspora, as well as those on the continent know, in December 2022, President Biden and his administration host African leaders from across the continent. They were invited to the U.S. for the U.S. African Leaders Summit, as well as the U.S. African Business Summit that took place in December 2022. And since there were a lot of deliverable promises initiatives that were launched during that period, and President Biden and his administration since then have continued to strengthen the relationship between the U.S. and African nations. This meeting, as we were told, is just to build upon that relationship. I spoke with one of the ambassador from Gabon that is present here today, Ambassador Nelson Melson, about what he hopes to talk about during this meeting and what he hopes to take away. Listen. What are you hoping this meeting that you're having at the White House? What do you hope to talk about and take away from this meeting?
Well, as African ambassadors, we primarily want to discuss or want to talk about United States Africa's relations. As you know, in December 2022, there was a major summit.
The U.S. African Leaders Summit.
Right. I think a number of things have been done since on some of the commitments and some of the actions that the U.S. pledged to implement. And it's very useful for us to have some kind of updates on the follow-through, but it's also important for us to continue raising awareness on some of the challenges that Africa continues to face, particularly in the areas of peace and security, but also on economic development. The global economy continues to have inequalities, continues to be not so favorable to many African countries, and it's important that some of the most powerful countries pay attention to how to help these countries in Africa, but also in other areas of the developing world. Then we have challenges that touch the whole world, such as climate change, biodiversity loss, and Africa continues to be the continent that is most affected, although we are the least polluting the environment, but we continue to be the ones bearing most of the brunt of climate change. So what needs to be done to help Africa adapt to the effects of climate change is also an issue of importance to us. And we also want to see how to improve trade relations between the US and African countries. AGOA is a very key initiative between the US and Africa in trade and investment, and there's a need to prolong AGOA, but there's also a need to review the framework and all the rules of AGOA. These are some of the issues that
you are hoping that you will discuss today.
We hope, if that's possible, but we would certainly be glad to hear what Madame Jean-Pierre.
Are you going to ask when the president will visit Africa? He did promise during the US-African summit that he will visit, and a lot of his cabinet members, the First Lady.
Yeah, we continue to hope that would happen.
I have with me the ambassador from Morocco.
Yes.
So can you give us an insight into the meeting that just concluded?
It was what the spokesman of the president to explain how they are working and what they are the major preoccupation of the press office of the president, how they work. It was very interesting to exchange and to understand the challenges they are facing.
Okay. I mean, like the president, as we know, in 2022, invited African leaders to the U.S. for the U.S.-African Leaders Summit.
Exactly.
Business Summit.
Yes.
Were you able to talk about that today?
No, we didn't have the chance to talk about that. But it is a priority both for Morocco and for the U.S. because Africans and the U.S. should work to meet together the challenges and to face the challenges as far as job creation, as far as promotion of growth. And we as Africans, we believe that we need to have a strong partnership with the U.S. in order to build up a new world where the multilateralism play an important role.
Thank you very much for talking.
Paul is here today. I've had an introductory meeting with the press secretary and assistant to the president, Karine Jean-Pierre. She's a very lovely lady. I was happy to meet her. We've been seeing her on TV, so today provided us opportunity to actually see her in person, and we're so impressed with her. We hope she continues doing the good work that she's doing.
Okay, so you are at the White House today, and exactly a year ago, Vice President Kamala Harris was in Ghana, her first visit to the African nation as the Vice President of the U.S. Talk about that experience and what that relationship means, a visit to Ghana, to the continent, and what it means.
Yes, Vice President was in Ghana exactly a year ago. We're excited to have her. It was her entry point to Africa. We see her as a daughter of the motherland. So we are glad to welcome her home. And she did a lot of advocacy work, a lot of work. She met with youth, she met with civil society. Of course, she visited Elmina and various other places and met with government departments and agencies. And definitely talked about U.S. support for Ghana and for Africa and the U.S. new partnership relationship with the continent of Africa, and the need for us to actually bind together and take this partnership forward and move it forward. And since her visits, we've had various other activities in that direction that show that her visit actually yielded some dividends for us in Ghana and for the African continent as a whole, especially in the area of security, in the area of support of our governance system, and even in the area of some various infrastructure projects in Ghana, and we appreciate that.
Oh, I have. Okay. So, you're from Uganda.
I'm Roby Kakonge, Uganda's ambassador to the U.S., and I'm delighted to have this opportunity through State Department to visit the White House and the press and look at the behind the scenes press conference, because it says a lot about press freedom. So looking forward to more engagements. Thank you.
Okay, you said this is very important to you. Why is the press aspect of it very important?
It's really important because the press is part and parcel of democracy.
And that's something that needs to be improved across the continent of Africa.
I think the whole world, especially with technology.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.